All right, we're recording. Okay, guys. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 14 of Girl Talk Pod. We're back at home in the solo episode today. Picasso is here again, and I think that might be a common theme. I normally kicked them out of the room when I was recording. But I've been leaving the door open just to get some airflow in my house because it is Texas. It is really hot outside. And if I shut a door, the AC is kind of crazy, or doesn't circulate well. But we're back home. I will have a guest episode for y'all next week. But today you just get me. So happy Tuesday. It is the first week of July. July is my favorite month ever, not only because it's my birthday month. My birthday is July 29th. Also, it's just, I love July. We've completely defrosted from the winter, and it is summer. It's peak summer, and it's just, I don't know. I just have always loved July, I guess. And we've got a lot of travel this month, so I'm particularly excited for all my trips and all the fun things. And I'm not even gonna lie, I love my birthday. I know there are people out there that like totally despise their birthday. I don't necessarily make it like I don't have like a do the birthday month thing, but I do really enjoy birthdays. I just think it's a new year, and it's nice that my birthday's in kind of the half of the year. So I set goals at the beginning of the year, at the new year, and then I also set goals when it does approach the new year of life for me. I rearranged my podcast space. I just flipped everything. So everything is now on my left side, and I am just fighting with this boom stand or boomstick or whatever you call it that holds the microphone. But if you hear me adjusting it, see me adjusting it, it's just because it for some reason doesn't want to stay up and it falls. So I also realized that in a lot of my episodes I miss topics that I want to talk about, or like miss points. So now I have my laptop with me and I will be referencing it because I just wanted to kind of go off the cuff, but then I realized that I miss specific things that I want to say. So I'm going to try this format for a little bit. And if it just gets too distracting or it just doesn't feel like genuine, then I'm going to ditch the laptop. But there are just things that I always miss, and I've gotten feedback from people that they wish that I would have gone like a little deeper in whatever topic that I'm talking about, and that's the intention, but I just forget. So I have notes, and I'm going to just try to make it as fluid and genuine and organic as possible, but I do have my laptop, so let me know, I guess, feedback on that. But I get most of you probably don't watch like the full videos, and you're just listening in your car and your headphones or whatever, so this doesn't even pertain to you. But if you are watching it and this is an eyesore, let me know, then we can adjust. But feedback on first guest episode. So last week I launched my first guest episode with my girlfriend Christina. I got great feedback. I loved having a guest on the show. We did kind of a hangout session, and it wasn't a huge, I guess, like interview because it was very interactive with the both of us. But next week will be more of an interview podcast with topics and a specific guest that does a specific thing, and then we'll talk about that thing and just parts of her life and stuff. So look out for that next Tuesday. And I love doing the solo episodes, but I do think it's going to be fun to mix it up with the guest. So I have a guest next week, and then we'll be back to solo. So for a while, it'll be solo guest, solo guest, solo guest, alternating every week. And I have some really fun guests lined up. I have about the next 5 guests planned, which is really cool. I have men coming on and women in all different industries, and people that I know really well, people that I don't know at all. So it's going to be fun to see who comes on the show and how we progress in the guest space. So that's really exciting. And I am wearing a flannel. If you're not watching and you're just listening, I am wearing a flannel in July because I am going to Montana this weekend, and I just wanted to kind of bring a little theme onto the podcast today. So I'm going to Montana on Wednesday, tomorrow, and we are going to have such a fun trip. Christina and I talked about this in our guest episode, and we are headed to Montana with a big group of people, not knowing a lot. There's like 30 people going, and I only know 3 people that are going. So it's going to be a way to get me out of my comfort zone and meet new people, but also the experiences are going to be so fun. I already went into detail on what we've got on the agenda, but we're just going to be out there living our best Montana lives, going to concerts, we're going to the rodeo, we're doing the Yellowstone River float and camping, full on camping, and I can't wait to recap my experience when I come back. And I do have some incredible upcoming travels besides Montana. I am going to Europe for my birthday. I'm going to the south of France and Switzerland at the end of this month. I'm going to Austin to do a girls trip for my birthday in a few weeks. And then I have some fun stuff planned in August, a work trip. And you're like, what work? I am going on a work trip that is a convention or a gala for the Dallas Safari Club. So one of my side hustles that I talked about is I've worked at this agency and I do raffle sales and I make a commission off those raffle sales. So I have a big banquet that I'm going to. It's not Dallas Safari Club. It's a Safari Club banquet, but I will go there and sell raffles. And so I'm traveling to Pennsylvania for that. And then I have some other fun travel planned in September as well, but that is way down the line. I'm just looking at the next week ahead of me at this point so I can just stay present. But that's what's going on in the next couple of months. Podcasts will still be consistent. You'll see me every Tuesday, and I can't wait to keep you updated as I do interview guests and stuff. So let's get into this episode. I have such a busy day today. I'm actually recording 3 podcasts. I'm going on as a guest of a podcast today, so I'm really excited for that. And I am recording the guest episode for next week, so I can have that planned. So we'll have that going today. Today's busy. And then tomorrow I'm doing a photo shoot. It's a really cool photo shoot. And I'm going to do an episode, my next solo episode, we're going to talk about kind of modeling and that space because I haven't talked a lot about that. So just anyone that's aspiring to be a model or just wants to know more of that story, I'm going to talk about that in 2 weeks. And so I'm doing a shoot tomorrow with a photographer I've worked with who actually did the podcast logo photo. So when you see on Spotify and Apple and all that. So she shot that shoot. And then we're just going to do some fun stuff out by the pool. And it's going to be vintage. It's going to be really cool. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And then I leave early Wednesday. So let's get into episode 14. This episode is about empathy and being an empath. I've been this doesn't, I guess, necessarily have to relate to the subject of this episode, but I've been kind of in this, I've been having this internal conflict recently about how I guess I'm going to call myself an enigma in the most, or the least narcissistic way, if that even is narcissistic, because I just feel as if the bullshit that I've been through in life, I shouldn't be as kind-hearted as I am. I guess it does relate to this episode. And I just feel like I should be so much more colder and closed off and not vulnerable with people, and I am trying to figure that out, why I just have such a kind heart. And I have a little bit I think I know why, which we'll get into in a little bit, of I guess I know the answer to that question. I don't even know what I'm saying. It's been I just got back from a trip too. I just got back yesterday from Galveston, so I'm still like decompressing from traveling, and I've been traveling so much. But I am just like, why aren't I, more bitter and closed off and like less trusting? But I don't know. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. And maybe we'll figure that out in this episode today together. But today we're going to be talking about, again, being empathetic and being an empath. So first, I want to just recognize like what the two are. And if you don't know, but an empath is just, in my opinion, someone that's like highly aware of people's emotions and how people around me are feeling. And I know that this is true. This is who I am, because there are just, I just am constantly in tune with how my friends and my family, and I'm just paying attention and I guess hyper aware of how people are feeling around me. If you are ever around me, just observe when we're in like public spaces. I am constantly like on the watch just for different things. Maybe that's a little bit of a distraction and ADHD, but I'm constantly just like looking around and trying to read people and see how people are feeling. It's just something that I've always done, and I have found out it's because I'm an empath. Empaths are also said to have incredible intuition, and I am not. I guess I need to like not be apologetic for being confident in who I am, but I have very good intuition, and there are many parts in my times in my life where I'm like, I should have trusted my intuition. I knew that this was going to happen, but I sometimes think I ignore my intuition just to teach myself a little lesson, and or just prove myself right, that like I knew that I should have gone this way, but I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to prove myself right or wrong. So I do it for the people. I do it for the podcast. I do it to come on here and tell you that I should have trusted myself. So empaths are said to have really good intuition, and I would say that I have pretty good intuition. And there are some pros and cons with being an empath. So pros, I would say that people often open up to me about things. I'm a very good listener, so I do find a lot of friends or people that are like acquaintances. They're quick to open up to me about certain things, and I think it's just because I give off an aura of genuinely caring and trying to understand them. I never come with judgment, and I always try to see people as they are. So I've found a lot of people come to me and ask me for advice. And that's one of the main reasons why I started the podcast. Is people always, in my blog, like years ago, if you go read my blog bio, it literally says like, people have always asked me questions about certain things in life, and they're just curious about my opinion. I think, again, it's just because I give a sense of genuine care, and I'm trying to understand and, see them as they are. So people have always reached out to me for advice or opinions on certain things. And so that kind of led me to start my blog. And then now I'm here just giving you advice that you asked for or didn't ask for, and come back to listen to every week. So also, yeah, I guess just like people, I'm a good listener, and people like reach out to me and ask me for advice. Those are two great pros of being an empath. And also a pro of being an empath, but like I'm trying to learn, is just being aware, so you can kind of read people and like see their intentions. I've turned blind eyes to a lot of this from just being like naive, and we'll talk about that more, and like how I've gotten burned in the past, just for being super naive. But if done correctly, you can, read people and kind of read and suspect intentions from people if you are, spending time and trying to be aware of other people's emotions. So those are kind of some pros that I have found with being an empath. Cons that I have found with being an empath are definitely mental strain from taking on other people's emotions. So being hyper aware of what people have going on has definitely caused me to feel burnt out and not set boundaries for myself because I'm just paying attention to how everyone else is feeling. I talked about this in the detachment episode of me worrying about people's feelings so much, and it's taken away from my own mental health and my own just needs of things that I need to do for myself. So you have to find the balance of being able to care for people, but not to the point where you're exhausting yourself and leaving the things that are important to you on the back burner, because you have to find balance and you have to put yourself first. And that's not selfish. That's just, you can't operate on an empty cup, and you can't give people that need things from you what they need if you are operating on zero. So you've got to put yourself first in those situations. And yeah, so it's just not setting boundaries for yourself, and like people can end up walking all over you, especially when you're super focused on how they're feeling and maybe neglect, or not neglect, but you ignore red flags that they're presenting because you're just worried about them and you don't want to protect yourself. So those are some kind of pros and cons of being an empath that I've, just reflected on in my life and just researched on what an empath was, because I just want to give you like the most valid information. But again, this is all my experiences and my perception of life, which everyone is so different. But now let's get into like empathy, because empathy and sympathy, I think, are two words that kind of get confused. So sympathy is like feeling sorry for someone, like being sympathetic, but empathy is being able to see things as someone, like see actions, see words, see feelings, see intentions as someone, and kind of personifying, is that a word? I think so. Some like things, I guess. Just it's just being able to put oneself in the mindset of another to gain insight on why they do things, I guess. And I guess to paraphrase that, it's just seeing people as people. It's seeing people as, like their inner child or unhealed like children, or someone that's been hurt, or someone that's dealing with something, maybe projecting something unintentionally, or just like seeing why people act a certain way. With obviously you don't know the story of everybody, but deep, like, that they are a person, they struggle with things, and that's why they can be acting a certain way. Never holding grudges against people, never, being prejudiced, and just trying to get to understand someone before making any judgment or, characterizing them as individuals, because you just never know what people are going through. And as you build deeper connections with people, you're more likely to understand and not make quick judgments. And that's exactly what I try to do in all relationships and communicating with people. And that's what I want to do with this podcast when I bring guests on, is I want to bring people in that are amazing, but I really want to get deep, and so you can understand these people better and why they operate the way that they do, and how they've gotten into certain situations, good and bad, and how they've gotten out of it and what they've learned from it. And that's exactly, is like, we're empathizing with people to get to know them better. and just understand, because I just feel like no, not a lot of people want to put in the effort to understand others. And if we were to just put a little bit more effort into that, I think the world would be a better place, because we were so quick to judge and put people in boxes. And I've talked about boxes before, is I just want someone to put in that effort as I put into them, of just like really getting to know exactly who I am and why I operate the way that I do. And I've got a fucked up past. I've got a really fucked up past. And I try every single day not to let that define me. But there are habits and there are things in my life, the reasons why I do certain things, because of traumas and things that happened to me that were out of my control. And if people were to maybe give me a chance to just understand me and let me explain why. And that's why I love the podcast, is because y'all are all getting to know me better. And I hope that the stories that I've shared about my abuse and mental health has, given you better understanding of who I am and maybe why I operate in certain ways. But I just, I've been put in boxes by people. I've been put in boxes by people like acquaintances or even partners that, just label me as something or someone, and without taking taking a step back and like looking at me as a whole and my past and what shaped me and why I do the things that I do. I'm not saying that I need to make excuses and be like, oh, because these things happen to me I can act like this. No, I'm constantly a work in progress. Constantly. Every single day I'm trying to heal and be the best version of myself for me, but also so I'm kind and a good person to everyone else. So that's kind of what I would wish for people to, try to practice more empathy in their life, in a personal scenario. It's, I think a lot of people look at empathy as weakness, but I think empathy is strength. I think that being able to detach yourself from a situation and try to really get to know somebody is a strength. And I think that people mistake empathy with compliance and agreement. No, it's actually not. It's you get to understand people's feelings and their point of view, and I think that that's like one of the most important things that you can do in your life is just not be so pessimistic. Open your heart to optimism and just try to see people's view from a different perspective. Arguing with someone because they don't have the same point of view as you is honestly fucking crazy. Crazy. Like, you have to think about cultures and how you grew up and how society shaped you. Like, you want to take someone from a different country that was raised completely different, and you don't even have to go with different country. You could do different county, Dallas County to Tarrant County. Like, people, how they're raised, people are products of their environment, and as they grow up and start to get their own beliefs, like, that does change. But you have to think of like what is inherently instilled in them from like generations and generations of trauma or teachings or just cultural beliefs. Like, to be upset and pissed off with someone because they think something different of you, that's crazy to me. And that's why, like, I will never talk about politics and argue about politics with people. You just never know what people have been through. And so being able to open up your point of view and your perspective and be able to accept that other people have different opinions than you, that's a fucking superpower. And that's also, you can bring a detachment into that as well, as like, just because they think that doesn't mean you have to think that. So why would you necessarily need to argue with someone because they don't have the same point of view as you? And why do you want people to have the same point of view as you? Not conflict, but I guess opposing opinions, it's challenging, and like that creates innovation and that creates conversation. But never fight or argue with someone just because they think differently than you. That's just a little silly. That's a little silly. That is very silly. Why? I want to get into what I think shaped my empathetic heart, if you will. This is kind of what we were talking about earlier, that we might answer those questions that I have, like, in this episode. So I was asking earlier, like, why don't I have more of a cold perspective in life about certain things? And I think that it's because I genuinely never want to make people feel how I felt in certain situations. I have felt so much pain and heartbreak and betrayal from the people that were supposed to protect me the most in life. And I just think that the reason why I am overly kind to people is because I want to make people feel how I wanted to be feel. I wanted to feel. I want to make people to feel. I want to make people feel like they're protected, they're safe, they're cared about, because I felt a lot of the times in my childhood that I wasn't protected, safe, or cared about in multiple situations. So I just answered my question. I don't know what the fuck I was talking about earlier, but that's why I am the way that I am. 100% is, if I could be the happiness, the reason for the happiness that someone feels, that is fulfilling to me. If I can make someone's day, if I can make someone feel warm and fuzzy and cared about, I think that's why I'm a little flirty too, is like, I'm not flirting with you to like go to bed with you and like be your fucking girlfriend. I'm flirting with you because I want to make you feel good. So I'm not actually flirting with you. I'm just being nice, and people take it as flirty. Sure, that's what we're gonna say. But that's probably why I have a flirty personality too, is because I want to make people feel good. Just because I was not honored the same, or I wasn't offered the same kindness when I was, growing up. So I think that's why I am the way that I am. And I love going above and beyond for others. I am, like, we all have our love languages and how we want to be loved. I love people in ways of going above and beyond for them, with whether it be acts of service or gift giving. I could be better about words of affirmation, like to my partner or to my friends, but like, I love giving gifts more than I love receiving them. And like, when I buy someone something, I cannot wait to give it to them. Like, if I have to procrastinate gift buying before birthdays and Christmas and things like that, Valentine's Day with a partner, like, because I want to give it to them as immediately as I buy it, because the endorphins that I get from buying someone something or giving someone something is, it's crazy. Like, it's more than I could ever get from receiving anything from anyone. And I think it's just because, again, I like to make people feel good. I like to make people feel cared about. I like to make people feel special. So that's a big part of my personality. And I have been burned many times by people because I'm overly kind. I go above and beyond. And I've been burned in friendships. I've been burned by family, and I've been burned in relationships. And that's also has to do with the lack of boundary setting, because I just was a people pleaser, and I would just try to make people feel better and good all the time, and I would neglect myself, and then I would do it for people that didn't deserve it, and I got fucked over. And that happened a lot, and I had to learn. I'm still learning. I have to learn a balance of, you can still be kind to people, but you can still protect yourself. You can still give to others, but you have to make sure that you are giving yourself what it needs first. So to prevent burnout and to prevent just, digging yourself a hole to lay in because you have absolutely nothing left to give anyone nor yourself. So it's just, I'm currently still learning how to find that balance, but I've done a better job. And the first step is boundary setting, and also just analyzing the people in your life and being able to cut out those who are no longer serving you. that are draining your energy, that are taking is way more than they're giving to you. And I'm not saying giving like materialistically, but I'm talking about just time, energy, peace. Like if they're not giving that to you and they're just taking everything from you, then they need to be cut out of your life. In this process of learning the balance and how to keep my kind heart but still protect myself is, I guess an example is like finding empathy in my trauma, or like having empathy when looking at my trauma and being able to see, for example, my abuser as a human who was also abused and never got the help that they needed, and they were not able to break a generational cycle of trauma because they just didn't do the work and they didn't have a support system like I did. And that's not saying that I'm not forgiving what they did and they will never have access to me ever in my life, but I do forgive them as a person, because all I see is a pain of someone that has pain and hurt in their heart, and I forgive them and I feel bad for them because they will never get the freedom that I have from the healing that I've done. But that's just I have empathy for them, but I'm still protecting myself by never talking to them, never having communication, never letting them be involved in my life in any way ever. And that's an example of the balance of having a kind heart, but still protecting yourself and setting boundaries. And there are multiple ways that you can do that. Or there's a ton of examples in friendships, work, relationships, family, that you can do this. You can love people so much and you don't have to give them the energy if they don't deserve it. You can limit the amount of access that someone has to you. And that doesn't mean that you're selfish. It means that you're just putting yourself first, because that's how you have to operate. And you don't want to risk the burnout. And the people that are in your life that really care about you and that should get that energy will understand that. And I talked about it again in the detachment episode, of people will always do what's best for them at the end of the day. So why would you go and bend over backwards for someone and burn out and not do the things that you need to do for them to just have their own back at the end of the day? And that's not selfish on their part either. They've got to have their own back. We all have to have our own back. So that's just a little example. But I do give more examples kind of like that in the detachment episode. So this kind of goes like hand in hand in this like finding balance of setting boundaries, being able to put yourself first. But the people that will be there for you will be there for you because they love you and they care about you. So just remember that we can still be kind. We can still, while still setting boundaries and protecting ourselves. Don't ever lose your kind heart, because that's just kind of a motto that I live by. It's like, when I leave this earth, if I'm known as kind, that's all that matters. I don't care if I've been fucked over by people. If people are going to say that Ruth Little, had a kind heart and she was empathetic, then literally nothing else matters. The success, the podcast, the money in my bank account, the material things, none of that matters if I am known to have a kind heart. If that's the only thing I'm ever known for. And that's something that, Mr. Leo's coming to the party. You can hear his tippy tappies on the hardwood, but that's him back there. So that's a motto of mine, and I live by it, and I want to live, and I've always lived by it, even prior to my frontal lobe fully developing when I turned 25, if that's even scientifically correct. That's always something that I've led by, is I've always wanted to have a kind heart and go above and beyond for people, and I will do that for the rest of my life. And no matter what I do, the people that I meet, the success that I gain, the money in my bank account, I will always carry that, because I think that's the most important. So I guess my purpose in life is to be kind, and I'm not mad about that at all. So that is kind of everything that I had to say about empathy and how I carry empathy in my life daily. I hope that this inspires you if you've been kind of, down and maybe asking yourself, why do I get fucked over? I'm kind, I'm, a good person, but people still want to fuck with me and all of that. It's just, you need to evaluate the people that you're giving your time and energy to. That's going to be the number one thing, is just evaluate those people that get your energy and if they really deserve it. And it's not selfish for you to cut people out. I had someone reach out to me recently about the same thing of, cutting people out, but like nervous that they're going to react wrong. Those people that, one, if you express yourself, no one can be mad at you for expressing how you feel and not and wanting to protect your energy. They're not good people. They need to get out of, like, that's just another sign they need to get the fuck out of your life. But if people want to come after you and confront you, you got to be able to be prepared for that. If you do cut people out of your life, and you can't just expect to say what you need to say, and they, I mean, in a perfect world, you say what you need to say, they are like, okay, and then you move on. But sometimes people are going to come back with conflict or contradicting opinion, and you just have to be ready for that. But the people that are supposed to be in your life will understand, and hopefully, they take and comprehend what you're expressing and, fight for your friendship. But if they don't, then they're not supposed to be in your life. But you do have to be prepared for those uncomfy situations. But I guarantee you're going to never feel more free when you do cut out those energy suckers out of your life. Or you can reevaluate friendships and maybe reconstruct them, and then they can be the best friendships that they've ever been, the best versions of those friendships that they've ever been. You know what? Words are really, really hard for me today. So, and I have 2 more episodes to record. Oh, no. Well, before I ramble on for the next 15 minutes, we're going to conclude this episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to keep growing with Girl Talk Pod. I hope that, you've enjoyed the last 14 episodes that have been put out there. It's only going to get better. My knowledge is growing. The connections are growing. The network is growing. And I just can't wait to see Girl Talk continue to grow. So I will see you next Tuesday with a guest episode. I can't wait for you to meet her. She's a good friend of mine, and she's done some really incredible things. And I will be in Montana tomorrow. I hope that you all have a beautiful 4th of July holiday weekend, and we will see you next Tuesday. Bye.